appreciate everyone's patience, and thank you to everyone who made this work. So we will go ahead and start with our first session of public comments. Would anyone care to speak? Okay, since no one would like to speak, we will start with our discussion, our Q&A with Mr. Peter Auger, Municipal Management Consultant with the Municipal Technical Advisory Services. Rolls off the tongue. And Taz, yes, right. Okay, all right, thank you all very much. Would you like to start off and say a few words, or would you like to field some questions? I'll let you direct this.
I just glad you asked us to come back, us, me and Taz, because it's more than just me that you get. You get a whole team, depending on what direction you want to go, what questions you have. Public Works, police, fire, anything you want, HR. We have people that work with the community and help you out any way we can. I think that's important, especially if you're still talking about hiring a town manager. And if you get somebody young and maybe a little bit green, you have the safety net of MTAS, along with a phone call away.
Yes.
So that can help some green young person studied it, read about it, never really done it. So I think it's a good safety net. You're lucky. Tennessee's very lucky to have this program. Having MTAS has been around for 75 years this year. No other state even has a really great program. So with that, I'll help you out any way you can and guidance that you may need.
Well, I know we want to regain the trust of the citizens of Bluff City. I think a lot of people feel that we've let them down, and we want to change that. And I would like to ask for guidance moving forward. There is a need to fill our position that is vacant. Could you give us any guidance on what would be in the public's best interest to rebuild the trust? What are things we could do?
But I think in my experience, you're not going to get that trust until you build trust on board. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You don't all have to hug and kiss and sing kumbaya, but if you as elected officials don't trust each other and have open, honest conversations about issues, not people, you'll never get the trust of the community, because then they can pick sides. And some people like picking sides. We were talking football before the meeting. Everyone likes to pick their team and wants their team to win, but you don't want people flying the flag in the middle of your city council. So I think it's best always to control what you can control. And normally that's in the smaller realm versus the larger realm. So you have a board of elected officials, that's a small realm. So how do you build that trust? How do you demonstrate to the public that you trust each other? And I think you do that by having meetings where you can talk about things without raising your voice. You can disagree without being disagreeable. You can share ideas, listen to hear, not to respond. So understand what somebody is saying before you respond. Sounds simple, but an easy way to do that is to repeat what you heard in your words, not their words. Therefore, Mayor, you were speaking and said, Mayor, what I think I heard you say was you want us to do X, Y, Z. And then you can either confirm that, yes, thank you, or no, let me try something else, what I was meaning. That way, you're not arguing about something that neither of you are talking about, because because then that starts to spool up, and you get mad, and you're not listening. Why are you making this difficult? Things like that come out, and that gets you going down that slippery slope. But if you can have honest conversations, almost like we're sitting here on a table and saying, well, I want this to happen. I want it to happen sooner. Okay, how fast do you want it? Well, I want it the next meeting. Well, okay, there might be a reason why we can't. What is that reason? You know, because if I want to do something and I want it now because we told people we were going to do it, but there's some things that I'm not aware of, let me know what those things are, because then I can say, okay, what is the soonest then that we can do it? Because then you can start trusting each other of, I'm not trying to throw a roadblock. There's things we have to do. When the public, I think, when they see that you do have disagreements, want to move faster, want to move a little more slower, what are the reasons for that? And then you get the vote. And the other way you build trust on an elected board is you vote. Now, my council were 7 people, so they hire city managers, not because we're math majors, but we can count to 4. Okay? So when you knew you had the 4 votes and they voted on it, boom, I get to go to staff and say, Chief, they want to go this way. And Chief doesn't get to act on, okay, let's see, only 60% of the council vote on it, so guys, 60% I figured on this. No, it's 100%. And we're going to do the best we can do it. Now, on the board side, how do you show that trust? Well, if you're on the losing side of a vote, and losing means you more votes on the other side, not that you're a loser and your idea was bad, but if you're on the negative side of that vote, all right, you support that because that's your board. You represent people, cast your vote, you use your discussion, but after the vote's taken, that's you.
And it's done.
Because you're a team.
Right.
And you want to succeed as a team. Now, you might have wanted a different strategy than everyone else. Okay, well, I'm not going to sabotage it though. You still want to move it forward. And if somebody on the street corner, well, why did you guys vote that? Well, this is why the reasons we voted this way. I personally I voted this way because I thought we could do it different. But you know what? Everyone else thought we should do it that way. So now, if you talk about building trust one person at a time, instead of you being angry, I lost that vote, so-and-so did, that's not going to build public trust. That's going to ramp people up instead of saying, we can have a discussion. You're a board of a multi-million-dollar corporation, right? So sometimes you have to act like that. You're making decisions. You were elected to make decisions. People trusted you. But I always used to say that every board member, I didn't care if I thought you were crazy enough to be locked up in an insane asylum. People voted for you, and therefore you represent that portion of the population who thinks maybe kind of like you, or maybe they didn't know you, but they voted for you. So it didn't matter where the conversation was coming or the idea came from. But I would work on that with your board. Is you folks, I've talked to a couple of you on the phone, and believe it or not, I think you guys are a lot closer in what you want to do than you are apart. I think there are some different avenues some of you want to take that I've heard you say, that the other people want different things, a different way to do it, or different timing on how to do it. So I think getting that on the table in a civil way would be the biggest way to show the public, the 10 million people who are watching on TV, okay, things have changed. You're here to do the people's business. You've studied the issue, whatever it is. You said your piece. You're not angry. You're not, and that also keeps the audience.
Steady.
They feel that there's some control. There's adults in the room. They're discussing it. They voted, and I thought, it didn't go my way. But I understand a little bit why now. So that's just my recommendation when you're talking about trust is always, and I tell my staff this too, is control what you can control. Stay in your lane. So trying to get the public to trust you will fail. It's too large. It's nebulous. They're not all disagree. But normally, like I say, I don't think you're too far apart. There might be issues here or there that you might, be really strongly against, but other than that, the things that people get done, or want done, that's probably 95% of what you do. The other 5%, you might be very passionate about, but is it that important to blow up the city or, sorry, no, that wasn't me.
No terrorist threat.
Did I say? I'll keep my hands down.
No gun in your pocket.
But it's, if we look at it as, you come together, you're all here for the right reasons. You have different styles, you have different backgrounds, you have different experiences. So you're gonna have different ideas on how to get stuff done. Okay, let's discuss some of those things. You might find out, the hardest thing to do when you're running an organization, especially as you're changing, like you're going from a patrolman to a sergeant, the hardest thing to do is start delegating. Because it's easier to do it, because you know how to do it. And it's quicker, and it's gonna get done the way I know it should be done. And same thing when you're coming up through the office, and you move up, and the hardest thing is to delegate and allow people to do things. And sometimes you have to delegate with your ideas. You could put your idea out there and champion it, but it's okay to say, because what I found is when I let people do the work like they want to do, I explain what I want and not how to do it. Don't tell anybody that they did better than I would have done. They came up with something better than I would have done. They did it different. I was nervous. But sometimes it comes out even better. So if we all focus on staying in our own lanes, putting our ideas out, do your homework. When you have stuff coming up at a meeting you're going to vote on, do your homework, call into the town manager, if you need questions asked, or, as far as, talking to the town manager and saying, can you give me more information on this? I don't understand this angle, or why would we do this? That's all good and legal, and that doesn't violate any sunshine laws. You can call and get more information. But I don't know if that answers your question, but I would start, if you're going to build trust, I shouldn't say this, forget about what other people think, work on your board. If you do not trust each other, the people are smart enough to see it. If they see you sniping at each other instead of, we're working to do the people's work. And I trust what you said, that you're not going to sandbag me, you're not going to pull a stunt on me, okay? I trust you. But you have to work at it. You have to understand that I told her this was going to happen, so I got to make it happen. I told her I'd fight for that, so I've got to fight for that, even though my idea was something else.
Well, I think it kind of starts with transparency, so it just says with our agendas and things like that. Like I mentioned their video, to me, they watch this stuff. If they're not here, they watch it. So if we fail to give them what they're used to getting.
But there are things, say the video doesn't work.
That's happened.
Say the interweb goes down. Can you still have transparency? Yes, and that's in your minutes. All the technical stuff is like icing on the cake. What the law requires you to do is keep minutes. And a lot of people get hung up in, well, I didn't say that at the meeting, or I want this in there. That's really not an important part of the minutes. The important part of the minutes, number one, is who's here. Okay, making a quorum, right? Who's here? What's on the agenda? What time the meeting starts? The motion. Not the intent behind the motion, but the motion. I move that this is the ordinance we're going to pass. Whatever. And the vote. In your minutes doesn't actually, some attorneys will tell you, don't put that in there because 20 years from now could mess us up, because it's not the intent. Intent doesn't have anything to do, your intent, it could all be different. It's what you're voting on, what's in the motion, and who made the motion, and who did it, and then what time the meeting's over.
Well, what is, who makes the motion, what do you think that would be saying? Because everybody's gonna jump down, gotta be the first one to make that motion.
Well, no, it's just that you have a motion on the table. So somebody made the motion, and then somebody supported the motion. There's discussion. Sometimes I've seen minutes where it says there was, after this motion was made, and there was good discussion amongst the council. Vote was so many yeas, so many against. Who voted for it? Who voted in? Because that's the item that you're voting on. It's not the personality who made the motion. It's not the person who made. It is that item. If you're making a motion, we were talking, I forget, sorry, which are the two I was speaking with, is about, maybe changing the meeting times or the rules of city council, because councils can make a ordinance on, these are our rules that we're gonna follow during our meeting. Public comment. Is it at the beginning of the meeting, at the end of the meeting? Is it both? Who gets to speak? What is required? All these things. And the state has changed the law now that actually you can, say there's only 3 minutes, 2 minutes, time out, 30-minute cumulative from everybody that wants it. You can do all kinds of stuff if you have it a policy that you make that those rules. So making those rules, I think, is another way to show trust. That how do I get something on the agenda? Normally, the mayor and the town manager set the agenda. Okay? Now, I want to get something on the agenda. Well, you should talk amongst yourselves and say, what does it take to get something on the agenda? I've asked 3 times for the mayor to get something on the agenda, and it doesn't get put on. Number one, you want to build that trust? This is an easy place to start, is I want something on the agenda. Okay, what is that item? Okay, well, if you can wait till the next meeting, because I know the town manager's working on something, and then we'll be able to have it together. Person that asked to get something on the agenda, okay, that makes sense. 2 months, that item will be on the agenda.
An answer.
You'll know why, or because there are times in the municipal world, there's timing on what's happening budget-wise, state-wise. So there could be a good reason it doesn't go on the agenda, or maybe there's something very controversial that's coming up at the next meeting, and you don't want to conflate 2 different issues. So I hear you. I know you want this on the agenda. Let's go. Can we wait? Because let's deal with this thing that's boiling over right now, and people are really focused on. I don't want to use all our juice and energy on that. So there's reasons to do things to get things done in a more efficient way. So there are reasons that a mayor may say, okay, I hear you, but maybe not this meeting. And it's not always to stonewall or to distract you. If the mayor says, I'll do it in 2 meetings, not this next meeting, you can hold her feet to it and say, Mayor, you said. And, she's not going to show me. But again, that's how you're building trust. Those are hard things. They're actually pretty simple things. Well, simple in my mind, but because it's easier to say than to do. Because sometimes we do hold those little things. That's when we talk about the unintended biases that we all have. We've got to kind of, okay, this is important.
I think around what you asked.
Oh, no, I had several. I'll start with this. To rebuild trust, that's the hard thing to do. How do you recommend that we do that to rebuild trust? I mean, it takes a while to rebuild.
I don't think it takes as long as you think it is. it can be very hard if you want it to be.
Well, I guess it depends on what you've gone through too.
Right.
And
Well, yeah, because it's hard if you've been, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. But if you're in the dating world and you're dating and you're spurned and you're turned down, you begin not to trust your instincts or the person, the people you're choosing. So it puts you in a negative spot when you're trying to just do something good. So when here it's a small group, and you can earn trust by asking somebody's opinion, but listening to them. It being able, again, it's a tool to repeat back to that person what you heard. And it forces you to make sure, because most of us when we talk, or we're listening, we're already thinking of the next question we're going to ask. We're already thinking of, I've got an answer for what you're saying. So, but if you focus on what the person's saying so you can repeat it back to them, it focuses you to listen to hear, not to answer. And that is a simple, not easy, but that is a simple way to start to build trust, is repeating back what you heard and validating.
yeah, okay.
Now, validation doesn't mean you agree. Validation is more, oh, now I see where you're coming from. So it's not saying, I agree with what you said, I repeat it back to you, okay, now I agree with you. No, I see why you're thinking that way. That's just a validation.
Right.
That starts to build trust. Now, supporting people, I'm not trading votes or anything like that, saying, okay, I'll get him to trust me because I'll support what he wants. Well, you're not in Washington, D.C. where you're trading. It's more understanding where they're coming from and not being mad if you introduce something and everyone else in the council says, not this year, not going to make the budget. Okay. I mean, it just, that sometimes being I don't want to say a good loser because you're not losing, but just because your idea didn't make it.
Right.
Be a good sportsman. I say, okay, I see that. Now, if it happens 8 times in a row, you might not be building that trust. That bucket might be getting emptied. So you might want to have a conversation. Hey folks, how come every time I bring up something, it goes nowhere? And hopefully they don't say because you're stupid.
Believe it or not, and
I just want honesty and transparency.
yes,
That's
and
what
I don't think, and this is awful, but this board, and I'm the only woman on the board, it was never done that way. It was like, how many, 5 years you're on the board? It was like a domination there. One person ran everything, never shared anything, and people, it's kind of like what you said. It's almost like we got to start from scratch and build back up. That's how bad it was, and I'm sad to say that, but
No, it's
so
not.
things are just so, it's critical, and like talking back and forth, and
Well, I think what's worse than starting over,
it's not starting off.
is not noticing where you are. One of the first steps of recovery is knowing where you're at
Exactly.
and admitting it. And I think sometimes you have to look, and especially with your staff, is realize they're going through a change now too.
Yes.
Because it's a different world that they're in than they were 6 months ago.
Exactly. And we're blessed too because we've got a good city manager here. This is new. This is new.
This is gonna be our first time with this, and like, Lori started, giving an update
Mhm.
of like maybe weekly or bi-weekly. That is wonderful, and I'm sure you're getting that for Michelle.
Yes.
And then, but, I
manager is your contact. There's two contacts. Number one, the mayor is your liaison.
Between.
And she runs the meetings, and she is the elected head person of the city. Your town manager is in charge of the day-to-day operations. So you want to talk to someone in public works, call the town manager. You want to talk to somebody in the police department about something, call the town manager. Okay? That person is responsible for everything in a day-to-day. A good town manager will know. They don't know everything about police work. All they know is that when the red blue lights come over, they pull over like everyone else. So they will delegate and contact. And when you get into somebody that's very comfortable in their skin, I told all my elected officials they can call the department directors. Most charters say that you go through the town manager. That's the chain of command. But I knew I was just going to have to call the department director anyway, and all the department directors knew that any email answer or any correspondence or anything, I was copied.
You were in it.
I was in the loop.
Yeah,
It's just more efficient. But in small communities, a lot of times,
like us.
you have working chief, you have working director of public works, they're out in the field doing stuff. It's better to call the town manager and let them get it to the people in a time that they can respond. Sometimes your town manager might even be able to answer your question without even interrupting whatever departments are doing. So keeping it focused through your town manager is the proper. Now, sending out information kind of swerves into something else. Is yes, updates. So a lot of people get confused on Open Meetings Act or the Sunshine Laws, and they say, okay, how can the mayor send out information and not violate the Sunshine Laws? Well, giving the information out is okay. Like you say, it's a shock. If you're not used to getting that, you might, geez, I'm getting all kinds of information now. Having discussions about that information is where you tip your toe across the line. Therefore, I recommend always, if it's a mayor or the town manager sending information out to the elected board, is I always had on the bottom of my emails, do not respond all. It's just a nice reminder of, we're not talking about this issue, I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that you might need to know, just because nobody likes to get sideswiped in the community about something that happened or where this project is. So sharing the information is okay. Talking about it is not. So even if the mayor sends her weekly, bi-weekly, whatever out, you can't call another elected official and say, I don't like this idea, I'm going to vote no. That would be violating the Sunshine Law.
But if
Because
you're not talking about anything that is being voted on,
anything that could come before the board that you're going to vote on, you can't discuss with another member unless you're in a public meeting.
But if you're delivering, if you've been told to deliver something, as long as you don't discuss it though. There was an incident that had happened, and Mr. Fry had told me to get a report from the officer and to deliver it to all the board
Right.
members, which I did, and we didn't discuss it, of course.
Right.
I did what I was told, so that's not breaking
Right,
something.
no, you're sharing information.
I
As
still
long as
haven't heard anything.
But that falls into your sharing information, you're not, you may or may not vote, I don't know on whatever information you're sharing, but if you start talking about, I think we need to vote on this, I think we need to do this, I think we need, no,
Yeah.
that has to be done at a board.
No, there was no
Unless you go through the attorney and say we can go into closed session or executive session on this issue. There's only a couple ways to do that. So you always have to check with your legal.
And
on
move
those
at the
type of-
attorney's advice, correct?
What's that?
Move at the attorney's advice.
Yeah, if you're going into closed session, yes. And, normally you'll have some heads up on that, probably have it on the agenda for closed session. But most of the things that you are making a decision on, and there's a lot of confusion as people say, okay, it has to be a quorum. It would be a violation of the Sunshine Law. Numbers don't matter. And it goes back to your personal cell phones versus a city realize it's what you're talking about.
Right.
I only text, you know, the secret stuff on my cell phone. The city said, that doesn't matter. If it's something you're discussing, that's a violation.
What
And
I've been
yes,
told, you can actually request a
Yes.
personal cell phone directions.
Absolutely.
So,
Computers
but
and everything like
although I
that.
was told that that couldn't happen.
Yeah,
I received a response, and I filled out a request form for it.
Yeah, it's, the big thing is, you really don't have to hide it.
Well, I think it's gotta get more comfortable as we as a board.
Well, I think that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Once you trust
trusting
people,
trusting right now.
start out on the right foot and, you know,
I mean,
you might get burned. You might trust and then feel like the person broke your trust. Probably never happened in any other aspect of your life either, right?
right.
I mean, think about it. You know, close relationships. You try to keep it on the table, and that's why if you're discussing things citywide, it should be at when you're in here. And you know, when I was here before, and I said lower the temperature. There's a reason, because you and I can disagree 100% on something and still like each other.
You were basically saying that night, you all are not in a mood to make any decisions.
Well, because when anger and fear are two times you don't want to be making decisions.
Well, I think what we've come from is a combination of those two, anger and fear.
Right. So
And then nobody was asking questions when down here. It's kind of like kind of got a feeling when our agenda says discussion and first reading, that's the time to discuss it.
well, and okay, so that kind of swerves into kind of when we're talking about rules and whatnot is, I always thought the best practices for public. You know, the public comes to your meeting, and they're public meetings. They're not public hearings. They come to watch you work. They don't get a vote. They can speak because you have times in your agenda for them to speak. But I always recommend, if you're going to make rules on public speaking, you know, hearing the public speak, that the board does not talk with the public. This is a time for the public to be heard. And if you're going to run an efficient meeting, you can say, you know, there's two ways to do it. Some communities have 2 times in their meetings for the
We
public
do.
to speak.
We
Some have 1. If you have 2, normally the one at the beginning of the meeting is for anything on the agenda. And you can speak on that. Therefore, if something's coming up to vote for first reading, and somebody in the audience says X, Y, and Z, doesn't mean you argue with them about X, Y, and Z because you want A, B, C. You're hearing their opinion and you're taking the information. So, the information might be shocking and so new to you to say, you know what, I think we should get more information from what I've heard tonight before we take a vote on it.
From the citizens.
Right.
Okay. Just want to make it sure that.
No, I'm
that
not
the
saying
room-
you ignore them,
yeah.
you hear them.
But
but
the board has not been hearing the citizens for
But-
a long time.
Right,
That's
but
been
if
one
you
of
could,
them.
but if during that portion, or right before that portion, you go to, okay, public comment, I would recommend that the mayor would have something to read. Part of our rules that we have adopted, state the board does not communicate back with you, and this is our time to hear you. And therefore, when, because sometimes you say, I don't want them to say, I don't want to talk to you, or I don't want to communicate to you. Our rules, and the reason you put those rules in place, have you had meetings where people wanted to fight and argue?
Years ago.
Okay? I've seen meetings where weapons fall onto the countertop because they're coming to blows. And you do not want that. A way to keep the temperature down is you listen to people. And then there might be something that needs some follow-up, right? That somebody comes up and
That's
you
what
want some follow-up.
read my mind
Well,
right there.
guess what? A mayor that runs a decent meeting will be able to say most of the time, thank you for your input. And the person was heard, okay? Sit down. But there's something that might need some follow-up. Thank you for your input. I'm gonna have the city manager, town manager, follow up with you. Or I'm gonna have the public works director follow up with you. Normally it's a town manager and then they can decide if it's the public works director or someone from HR, depending on what the issue is. They can follow up. They know they're heard. The town manager normally knows anyway that if somebody's coming up and there's an issue that something needs to be dealt with, we'll follow up with. And guess what? There goes another email out to city council as a whole after it was taken care of, took care of this, or I looked into it and there were some other circumstances that we don't need to discuss there. But so,
Answering them though,
Yes.
I think if the citizen comes down and they ask a question, I do think they have to deserve an answer, as long as it's a valid,
well,
and it's
it,
not.
it depends on, I don't hate to sound like Bill Clinton, what his definition is. Deserve is a different term of, they've come to your public meeting to see you do the government work. So, as an elected official, I hear your call that you feel that you need to interact with them. The challenging part is, if you're gonna answer, I don't care, Lucy Lou, oh, sweet old lady, I've known her forever, so I'm gonna answer her question. Then Jimmy John comes in and he's
Yeah,
all
the
hot
answer
and
is-
bothered, and
Right.
he wants an answer and demands it right now. And you can tell by the names popping on the side that he is not in the mood for really a good discussion. Well, you just answered her question, how come you're not answering his? So to keep the entire meeting in its entirety at temperature down, you have a rule that says we don't, we just listen here. And by saying thank you, by acknowledging that they've been heard, they're gonna have follow-up if needed. Some people wanna just be heard on what you're discussing and they're gonna see how you vote. I don't think you should do this because of X, Y, Z. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Some people have an issue they need to be addressed. Two different issues can be
Follow-ups.
handled by follow-up, and then they're still being heard.
I think follow-up would be is one of our keys to it, would be if it's deemed follow-up.
Well, the interesting things about making rules, and I don't want you to have rules on how you run your meetings or not, but you can change them.
Yes, yes.
You know, 2 years from now, you can go back and say, that didn't work.
Mhm.
Let's try something different. Now, does that make it look like you're listening to the public? Of course.
It does.
So, but don't give up on things. Be able to try to do things that sound like it's not building trust, but it is. And it's also going to be more effective meeting if you're not getting back and forth with the residents. Because there are some times in some communities where maybe the mayor doesn't want certain people to be heard and is shorter with them so that you have to be fair to everybody. If your rules are you get to speak one time in 3 minutes, beginning of the meeting on things that are on the agenda, at the end of the meeting on anything that wasn't on the agenda related.
Now, ours is, it's anything, 2 times. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be what's on the agenda.
Well,
We had a disagreement down here at one night at a meeting because of that.
yeah. Well,
The rules were changed, they were flip-flopped on us.
well, and that's what I understand when I was at the meeting.
They're always
Somehow the
changed.
rules were changed or it
Mhm.
was different than last time.
Yeah.
So you have to be consistent. That's why it's important to
Right.
have rules and have them out there on your webpage. These are the meeting rules. This is what the council's going to follow. And in those rules, now if you want to, again, it's how do you create civility where you're not sure that it's going to be civil, is I would recommend that you're not allowed to call each other by your given name. It's always alderman, mayor, vice mayor. And it sounds, again, it sounds like it's a silly game that you're playing. But what you're doing is you're removing the personality from the issue. You're gonna talk about the issue. The other thing that goes back to Robert's rules is you go through the mayor. You do not speak to an alderman. It's through the mayor. Therefore, Madam Mayor, I heard what the former speaker was saying, and I'd like to address that by saying, I don't prefer the X, Y, Z. I'm leaning towards the ABC because of this and this. And then the other alderman says, Madam Mayor, I would like to respond to the alderman's, takes the names out. It sounds like it's a gimmicky, it sounds, but it does. It's one more thing. You're not saying, Carol, I can't stand, or I don't like what you, you're not talking on the personal level. It's a professional meeting, and it's a board meeting. And so you're doing it with, and that's where Robert's rules actually started. It was a way to have a civil meeting when you're talking about things you're going to disagree with somebody, but there's a civil way to do that without coming to blows.
I like that.
I do too, and I think that there was some effort to keep meetings like that prior, but it was the way that it was handled. And so I think if we all understand that those are the rules that we want to work under, nobody looks like they're some dictator or some my way or the highway. It's understood, and then there won't be offense.
Well,
And that would bring trust to all of us.
well, but you started out at the right point. It all begins with trust.
Mhm.
The people trust you. They voted you into office. They showed their trust that you're going to act like adults up here, and you're going to represent the community. And how do you want the community? You could be so mad at the person, whether you're sitting next to them across you, because you normally don't sit like this. Is why I like sitting like this for workshops, is because you're sitting across the table and you can have discussion. You can have disagreements. In fact, the people don't mind when there are disagreements. When people called my office and talked to me about an issue and said, thank you, council member before council meeting, did you give me more information? Okay, thank you, now I understand, I won't ask a question. There are times I said, no, ask that question. That is a very good question, and I'll make sure the public works director knows you're gonna ask that. Well, that's cheating. That's not cheating. That's good information. Sometimes there's so many things on the agenda and so much going on in the workplace. They're not thinking like you're thinking. They're thinking they got it on the agenda. They're off to the next thing, and oh my gosh, a water main broke, or I got 6 other things I'm doing. Okay, oh, she's gonna ask that question? Yes. And she knows what the answer is, but she's gonna ask that. Okay, because then the public sees there is that information being
I think
exchanged.
then that would be transparency.
Well, I talked to you earlier, but I'm asking this question because, they see that there's work done. You calling and asking a question to a department director on something that's coming up doesn't break sunshine laws. Because you're getting information. You talking to another council member about it does.
So
See?
what,
Right.
so what you're saying is, I can contact the mayor, we discuss whatever, or I can call the city manager and discuss whatever, and that's not the sunshine law. On that part of it, or highlight me, one on what I wanna know about and so forth. But of course, if I talk to another member, then that would be sensitive.
Well, the mayor part, if you're calling to get more information on an issue, okay.
Or talk about it, an issue, I mean.
But if you're discussing how you're gonna vote or discussing something that's gonna, any part of deliberation that gets you to a decision, that's why when you have a town manager, it's better for the elected beneficial to talk to the town manager, because you calling the mayor on an issue could be seen as a violation, even if you were just trying to get other information, but she was able to sway you. That's why you voted. You called and talked to her, didn't you?
That's great, that's just a great.
Well,
So that's why I say, but you
So it
have,
would be-
this is,
But I could say something inadvertently that would make that person
Yeah.
think a certain way.
or tell how you're gonna vote.
Yeah, yeah.
Or what you're
Sure.
feeling. So the advantage of a manager-council relationship is you have somebody that's part of the board but doesn't get the vote. So they feed you the information. Yes, they're biased, they want one way to go one way, but you know that because they gave you the information. They put, their staff built it. It doesn't mean you have to vote for it, but you can ask tough questions and get answers of why would you vote this way. Now, you can swerve into violation of the Open Meetings Act with the city manager if it's coming to a decision about how you're gonna vote on something. But most of the time, when you're calling the city manager for information on something that's coming up in the council meeting, you wanna know, is it in budget? Is this contractor really legit? How did you verify, are you comfortable with that? Because sometimes when you have a project coming up and a certain contractor guy, you're saying, well, how did that contractor get, I know we're supposed to go out for bids. Did you check any, you can ask those questions. I'm gonna ask you this at the meeting, but I just wanted to know, so I'm comfortable voting on this. And I'm gonna ask you again at the meeting, those are questions you get asked all the time when you call in, when you see something on the agenda.
I guess in the past, again, because the mayor was the city manager, so, it was up to you, and so I would make a half an hour a week, just to come to find out budget stuff, what I mean, just information, not how I was gonna vote, because I wasn't voting, but I mean, so that is a little different, because you had to talk to the mayor and the city manager, when you
Well,
say, okay, we're going to
You
hear about
can't
this.
take off the hat and say, well, now you're
Yeah.
talking to the city
But I mean,
manager.
that's basically saying,
Well, I think there was a misinterpretation of those roles.
yeah, because he would
Because-
say, as
because-
long as I'm city manager, then anybody can talk to me,
Well, but there is, the mayor cannot be the city manager.
Yeah.
If you do not appoint the town manager, the mayor fills those roles, but he's still a mayor. And I think there was some confusion there that he thought he was in both roles. I got, but,
So did the town.
well, but that's behind us,
Yes, that's
okay?
behind us.
And sometimes,
But we need to know how to move on from that.
well, and that's why I'm
what
telling
we're
you
talking
these
Yeah.
things now, is you can focus on the past and be angry,
Oh, yeah, we
and-
wanna move.
or do you wanna move
I wanna move
forward?
forward.
I've heard some
Forward.
really cool stuff about tourism and stuff like that they're getting, there's some positive things that are happening.
We need to look for those things.
But
I-
I've had to answer questions. I've had people say, you all ran him out. We didn't. All we did was hire, and I very blatantly said, and plainly, we hired a town manager, which just took that role from him.
But we have not hired a town manager.
Well,
We
interim.
have an
in-
interim town
Yeah,
manager.
right.
Interim.
Yeah, but in doing that, you set the stage, you fulfilled a role, or the old board did, who voted in interim town manager. That action actually took some of the duties that the mayor was responsible for away from him, and it separated it. That action. So that is a perfect check and balance
Yes.
of local governance, where the council stood up and said, we want to go the town manager route, and we've got somebody that we want to install as an interim until we can find a manager. It took a vote. That was one of the first times that this council acted together to say, yes, we want a town manager and a mayor. Let's separate the two. Let's start that process. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, depends on whose chair you're in and what neighborhood you live, I don't know, that was not good. But other people from their position may say, no, we want a separate. We want the mayor to work on running the council, the council meetings, and we want to go a way where we hire a professional manager who can get us information, who can, keep us open.
Move us forward, move us
And
forward.
somebody that staff can respond to in a different way. So you're building trust that way. Now, are you gonna upset some people? Yes. Every decision you make is gonna upset somebody. Do you think it's gonna be better for the town to have this operation and separated?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why you made that decision. Move forward. You made that decision, now you have somebody and start to get some things organized and start to communicate a little bit different. The employees have a hard change to make.
Yes, I think they do.
Because they have to learn to trust.
We need to be very concerned about our employees right now.
Right now, I don't think you do.
Well, I would
But
like.
through the process, I think.
Yes,
we
no,
did.
I understand
Yes,
what
yes,
you're saying,
yeah.
but the
Thank you.
employees.
You understood what I just said.
Yes.
I see how you did that.
But see, because the employees will respond to a council that's working together. A council that they see is not arguing or being played against each other or trying to divide each other up. When the employees see that, wow, they get along.
I think
They don't all go out afterwards and they don't all go to each other's house and play
No, they're
cards.
not.
No, but
I think the employees see that now.
They're starting to see
No,
it.
I've seen them beforehand, and I've seen them now. I mean, they're more relaxed.
They are more
They're
relaxed.
smiling. And
That's true.
Michelle's a blessing. I mean, she stepped in right on time, and she is good with everybody. I mean, she's
Right.
approachable, and we just have. I don't like to make phone calls anyway. I always tell her I don't want to bother you, but I mean, she answers my questions whenever I have a question, and hopefully
But-
she'll stay with.
well, but
I'd
that's
like to add something if I can, from the employee, from the department head side. The morale here now is as good as it's ever been. The employees, it's as upbeat as I've seen it. It shows from our work, it shows from the productivity we're producing. It is a different feel and it is a better day. So
I think-
I wanted to speak on behalf of the employees.
yeah, you're not wearing your shock vest backwards.
So,
That
I
shot
can
plate goes
say
in the
this,
front.
with the board now, with the town manager, with the mayor, I feel like on all employees, we are as happy today as we've ever been.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is they see you working and change coming. And so it's the
They
stress
feel that
level
it's coming.
is
They
going
feel
down.
The stress level has
Yeah,
gone
You-
I
down
mean,
a
even
lot.
as a board member, I feel, personally, I feel more relaxed
We-
with
that-
Michelle.
We're
here.
we're starting, so this is a perfect place
And Lori.
for you to come in, and Lori. We need to know how to
Well, and I think-
interact with each other and actually agree. We're gonna agree, we're gonna disagree on things.
oh, I hope so.
There's just, yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We have to.
But that's a good thing, but the thing about it is,
It's
we
all-
don't try to destroy each other or
No,
hurt each
no,
other,
you can't do
or
that.
badmouth each other.
Help each other.
Exactly.
And keep the town in your best interest. It's the people
Exactly.
in the town.
The people in the
Exactly.
town and
If
the
we put the
employees.
people first, the town will be
So-
all right, because the people are the town.
Well,
Absolutely.
and that's where I was disagreeing with you as far as you're concerned about the employees. The employees will take care of themselves if they're not concerned with the council. If they're seeing that there's, and I hate to use the word adults in the room, but if they see you understanding what your roles are, knowing your concerns are all different, knowing that you're not going to be always chummy, but that you're discussing issues and you're moving forward, you're not nitpicking, you're not stabbing each other, you're not trying to divide each other. But, I want this done in this date. Well, why? Why do we have, because I promised people that, okay, well, maybe you should promise people. If you don't know the processes it takes to build a new police station, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. But there are things that you have to do in a certain order. But the number one things that I tell newly elected officials is know how to say, I don't know, I'll look into it. Or that doesn't sound right, let me look into it. Because usually there's another side to a story. So if somebody tells you, I saw this, or I heard this, and if you jump in right away and say, that doesn't sound right, I'll get them fired, or that doesn't sound right, I'll take care of it, you don't know the whole story yet. And that's a hard thing for city managers too, because we were supposed to know everything, you know? But it used to say, wow, you're right, that doesn't sound, let me look into it.
With Michelle, I think that one thing you did, Michelle, was so good. You went to the head of the and let them do the jobs. Because you can't do their you can't do jobs 23. Nobody can do that.
In my opinion, they were put into those roles and entrusted to do their jobs. Let them do their jobs.
And if they're not,
And
then
if they're not,
they
then
gone.
it's my
And
position
then
to be
they
like,
gone.
why aren't you doing your job? Absolutely. And
Exactly, and to question.
Yes,
And
and
not
to
just
question.
come down and.
But they've been doing phenomenal. I mean, I've seen, even in 2 months, I've seen them go from, yeah, we're managing, we're working, to going, hey, we've got this idea and we're working on this. I mean, half the time I'll be like, we should look at, and boom, it's done. Like, it's amazing. It's just amazing the difference. It's almost like
When
somebody
they're
just
competent.
opened up the doors and let it go.
let the departments do what they're supposed to do,
Well,
then that, by golly, that's the most wonderful thing in the world.
Well, that's what your manager is supposed to do is,
Oh, my God.
take direction, and you'll get to a stage, hopefully we'll do some strategic planning where you'll set goals and build your budgets off that, so then the staff is a part of that strategic planning. They don't vote on your goals, elected officials' goals is what set the budget, at least you get input from it. And then you feel more part of the team of, okay, everyone knows where we're going and how we're gonna get there. What is our vision statement? What is our mission statement? What are our values? I do a lot of strategic planning for a lot of communities, and a lot of them have never set what our common values are. Because you're gonna hire some people, you know what their values are. Do your values meet? Because I'm telling you, if their values don't meet your values, both of you are gonna be unhappy. And that's a bad situation. I'd rather help somebody get a job somewhere else where their values are more copacetic than know that I'm putting things gonna be abrasive because the values don't match. But you don't even know what your town values are.
And that should be on our website page.
Well,
We
most-
really don't even have that on our.
Well, most
Facebook
individual,
page.
I'll give you some slack here, because most people, when I walk in and I do team building or leadership training, most individuals don't know what their own values are. You might think you know what are your values? Well, have you ever sat down and put them down? What are your core values that aren't changeable? What are your solid values that are okay, but they're more flexible? What are your aspirational values is where you want it to be? And the community should have those too. Because then you know what type of person you're looking for a certain position. Is somebody with these values, somebody's gonna be a part of our team, has to have these values, or it's not, it's like adding water and vinegar. But it takes some work, and it takes some know-how behind the scenes to get to that level. At your level, right where you're at, you're not starting over. You've got a solid
We've
base.
got it.
You've got a solid base. You need to tweak the edges and control what you can control. Stay in your lane.
I think just right here with us.
Yes, we just between
This
the
is
elected
it.
officials, just knowing you're gonna disagree. Okay, how do I get my point across? Sometimes it's learning, how do I tell my story better? Because that other alderman's always getting everything passed. Why is that? Sometimes it's not because there's a conspiracy.
Except they had a better idea.
Well, or they know how to tell their story.
True.
life is about storytelling. So how, I did a whole thing on Lincoln on leadership. He became a storyteller. He could tell a story and get people to get on his side or know what he was thinking or know why we were doing something. That's what we do here every day. So sometimes I think that was a great question to start this workshop is how do you build trust in the community? Well, it's not. You don't start building trust in the community. You start by building trust. And when you demonstrate that to the public, they will
One of
start
the big
trusting.
things is stand in our own lane, right? Stand in our own lane.
Mhm.
And per se, if I have a problem or whatever, I go to our city manager.
Yep, don't go to the police chief.
Oh, no,
No,
sorry, Chief.
He's got other things to do.
Yeah, but I mean, anything, go to the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
And if the city manager has any problem, she works at the pleasure of the board, is that correct?
Yes.
So if she has any problem, then she can bring it to the board.
Right.
Okay.
And the town manager is a part of the board that doesn't get to vote.
Gotcha.
So
They're like
they're-
the mayor and the town manager are almost, in that aspect, they're the same.
No,
Neither
no,
get a vote.
no, the
No,
mayor,
no, but doesn't get a vote.
oh,
Well,
she
the
can
mayor
break a
does
tie.
get a vote,
She
though.
breaks a
Well,
tie.
in a
Yeah.
tiebreaker, but that is
Yeah,
why it's
but the mayor-
critical that we never leave an
See-
open seat, period.
Well, it's important to get somebody on here, and that's another thing I know you guys
Absolutely.
are wrestling with is how do you get because you're one down, right?
You're one
You're
down.
one down. So before, if that position was left open, that might give the mayor more power
And it
to,
did.
to be a tiebreaker because there wasn't a nod no. So yes, it's important to have a full board, but, okay, now you talk about trust, building trust in the community. What sort of process do you want to put in place to hire another alderman? Do you want to just say, you throw a name out, I'll throw a name out? You want to say, who ran in the last 3 elections and we'll pick one of those? Do you want to open it up now that you're a different board than you were? Because sometimes, and I don't need to use this word in too much of a derogatory, when you're a dysfunctional board, there's cool people and interesting minds out there that might have better things to do on a Tuesday night than to come up and join the circus. Yeah, but if the town says, wow, I think this might be a fun board to be on because things are happening and, they're listening to each other, they're actually discussing things and maybe some of my ideas might be able to help. You might have opened the door to other people who have never run for office to step into a position and then have to run. So sometimes when you have this situation, you only meet once a month, right? So that's frustrating.
But
Does it-
normally, more often than that. If we
Right,
got
you have
some-
workshops, but,
yeah.
so you might put it out there and say, all right, anyone that wants to throw their hat into the ring, the proverbial hat, anyone wants to take a shot, we have an open seat. We want to be open in this, we don't know who wants it. We have some ideas and we might have talked individually to some people, but write a one-page cover letter explaining why you want the seat to be an alderman. Now, there are people that are very good writers. There are people that are not so good writers. So you might want to mix it up and say, we're going to have a workshop and in 3 minutes, you only get 3 minutes to tell us why you want to be, why you want to work on our team. Why you want to be so now you have something in writing because some people are good writers and can put it out pretty clear. Some other are better oratory, can speak. So now you have 2 of the 3 things that you need when you're looking at somebody because some people are good writers, some people are good speakers. Other people are good doers. So you're going to have to trust and take a risk because you're not really going to see that unless you've already seen them in action on a board like this. So now you've got 2 other things. The other part of an interview is maybe you allow, and I'm just using from past history, that each for as president.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
but, no,
you
no,
know,
see,
you know.
we don't run down here as Republican or Democrats, and none
Well,
of that should
but
put
that's-
over
but-
anybody. But it can, I know it does.
You keep it, I would, and I'll tell you a secret, when you're interviewing, you don't ask what would you do in a situation. If you wanna find out about somebody, a better predictor of how they will act is, tell me a time when versus, don't give me the book answer of, what would you do if, how would you deal with, because that's in the future, I can make up a great story about Jack and the Beanstalk, but if you ask somebody a question about, have you ever worked on a board before? Can you tell me a time when you disagreed with somebody and, they were able to persuade you to change your mind? Can you tell me of a time? These are questions that you, yes,
Yeah,
that you're
but-
based on, and you might say, no, that's not, how can I, well, I would, one time, I ran a Girl Scout, troop, I don't know what it's called anymore, they changed their name. And there was a disagreement, and we had a discussion about how we were gonna sell the cookies, or how we were gonna do this, and yes, they changed my mind there, that they thought, and I went, you know what, it wasn't like that. But you're just trying to understand, but what you're doing is you're talking about building trust. You're being civil, you're trying to fill the board position, then you take the vote. Guess what? I'll bet you a couple of you might have different people that you want on this board. How are you gonna build trust? You're gonna take a vote. And whoever gets the most votes is gonna get on that board, and you're gonna work with that person, and you're not gonna hold a grudge because your person didn't get on, because there's gonna be a first loser. Somebody that didn't.
Well, now,
work.
wait a minute, they basically, the way it is down here, you might not, three people stand up and they say,
Mhm.
this is why I want to be on the board.
Mhm.
And then the board in the past had an opportunity to ask questions.
Mhm.
And some would ask questions, some would just sit and be silent, not say anything, not interact at all. Then whoever nominated the first person, if you got the majority of the votes, then boom, it was done.
Mhm.
So, but what if you had four people, that's kind of like, it's a little frustrating down here because sometimes you'd be the first one up or second one,
Well,
they didn't say anything.
Well, I would
And
say-
I have a hard time because, see, what requirements do we have to run as alderman? And guess what they are? Live in Bluff City and be able to vote. So how can we as a board demand or ask more for a vacant seat out there than what we had to run for?
Well, I think you put a process in place, and I would recommend that the first person speaks and somebody likes them, they make a motion to appoint them. The process is we're gonna listen to everyone. And after everyone's done speaking, then we're gonna choose.
And see, I like that one.
But
At least give everybody an opportunity.
well, and that's why you say, okay, whoever's wants to submit email or a one-page letter of why you want to be on the board to try to help us make this decision. You don't tell them, and it's an open essay, because you'll get a couple of people that really like to write stories, 5 pages later. So I think by putting in a process in place and understanding we're gonna put it out there that anyone wants to run or interested in this position, write us under one page on why you want to be there, and we're gonna ask questions so we get to know you,
Right.
because we're all trying, and you're gonna talk to everybody that wants to before you make a motion.
Right. Well,
Because you-
like a good, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Good example, the meeting tomorrow night. See, I did ask for it to be on the agenda that we get some, go ahead and fill that seat. Because we do have some voting coming up tonight, just 8-2-2. I hate a 2-2 vote down here.
Mhm.
Because then it does leave the decision with the mayor. And I got a bitter taste in my mouth about that,
Mhm.
because that one went on for too long. But,
That was a while ago.
yeah.
Yeah, well, but that's
is what we're gonna do.
Lay out the
Everybody
process.
Lay out the process. But I do think it's urgent that we fill that seat.
Well, let's see, okay, so you meet once a month, but you can't have a workshop. So your January meeting is the first Tuesday.
January 7th is our
First.
So,
But
I
we're
mean, I
gonna
know
end
it's a
up having
holiday week,
we're gonna have 2 special call meetings this month, though, I know we are.
but that's, you have a time before your next meeting if you wanted to meet that week of the first, what is the Friday or Thursday there, I mean, after you don't want to meet on the first or, but,
The 3rd is a Friday, the 2nd is a Thursday.
And we're gonna be
Yeah.
closed, so that we're gonna have to watch that calendar on that because our office is closed.
We're closed on the 1st, and we're closed on the 2nd.
I think so. You have to look, because I know some of
but
them.
as long as you
they're
know
all
that, then you can
together.
set that, and you might be
Yeah.
able to have people come in and meet and, interview them, and then at the board meeting, take a vote.
So we can actually talk in a workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and then everyone will have in their mind what the people that we've talked about,
Mhm.
they'll be able to think about it, and then
If you announce it at the meeting tomorrow night, we do that process, and we can look that up and get it ready to be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's not,
I
it's
mean, we
not
can
tough
do
to do.
that
You-
now. We
you
can
can
do that
verbally
tomorrow,
You can
say,
verbally say what the
okay,
process is
yeah.
gonna be, and then.
Tell
and-
us why you want to be on the board,
Right.
and then this is what we're gonna do at a workshop, and we have a workshop coming up the last Tuesday of this month.
Mhm.
They have an ordinance on that workshop, the board members
The
just
last
kind of
Tuesday, you
forgot
said
all
what
about
was
it.
it?
We
When
do
you
have
have
a
the holidays?
workshop.
That's the 24th, which is Christmas.
That's
Eve.
Christmas Eve.
All right.
Oh,
well, see,
really?
then
Honey,
we-
I
see,
think
you
I'm
might
gonna
wanna
be out of
bump it
town.
up. No,
Merry
I
Christmas.
know, I didn't know,
But it's good to know.
yeah,
It's
I
good
didn't
to know,
We
so-
do have to look ahead, because
Absolutely, 'cause we're coming to
because
that.
when we make the submissions on our website, how
Yep.
critical it is that our agenda goes out there.
And it's,
And two, plus, we are required to put an agenda out there
Right.
48 hours in advance,
you have to put an agenda out there, and you have to put on the agenda what you're gonna speak about.
and it should be clear.
Yes.
But couldn't we wait till after the holidays? Cause I'm planning on going out of town.
Well, so let me just interject. I think that the discussion and the adoption of the process needs to be on the January agenda for you all to discuss it in public so everybody can hear.
The people that are gonna come up and talk.
People who are watching and people who come to the meeting, that they're gonna know what's expected of them, and then after that process is approved by the board, then you could move forward on your schedule.
So it'd be in January
So
sometime
it
that
wouldn't
you would
then be
interview.
until February then if we fill that seat, if we do what you're saying there like that.
Yeah, cause you meet once a month.
Yeah, we meet once a month, so that would
That's
push
almost
us
Yeah,
out
I don't
into
think
that
there's
process.
anything critical. I mean, I don't know what's coming up, but I don't think there's anything that critical, but
Well, I think we just,
for a vote.
we should set a standard that we have 30 days to fill an empty seat.
Right, but
Period.
your charter's open on that.
Yeah,
So-
well, we're gonna
but-
have to change that.
But see, but I think in making changes like you're doing, and you're fixing something that you saw was broken, obviously, that, okay, so you're gonna fix it. So, I think it might give people confidence if you do, even if it's longer than, you can't just do it right away. But if you're telling people, okay, at our January meeting, we're gonna vote on the process, so it's open. People hear the discussion up there that you're talking
Yeah.
about, this is why we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to, in February, we're gonna have a special call meeting, so it's not like, it's just out there, we're gonna get to it when we get
The
to it.
transparency,
make the
that's
commitment
good.
because you want to
Yeah,
be open.
yes, we need to, thank you, Paul,
We
we
could
do.
put that process up on the webpage, so people can easily, the only thing I would say is just defining if they're going to email it, which email address you want to use.
Well,
So that would all be part of the process, but we could put that on the webpage.
I think it
and we
needs to
can
go,
promote it.
if we're gonna put it on the webpage, then you put everybody's email address on there. And it has to be sent to everybody, because, again, transparency.
Well,
and
but
you-
if you, normally, the
Like,
know, I
like
wanna know.
maybe Joe, maybe you kept one out from there.
Right, but, that's,
Oh,
But that
look,
but you
look,
have to
that
build-
went, that's happened.
I know.
But
But this is
But-
what you
but-
got.
that was,
Yeah, but let's let
That was
the
before-
people know that we're doing it. and
Right,
It's not
but
gonna work that way,
that was
too.
before today.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're in today.
Okay.
And we've got this trust we're building, and so we're gonna put out one email address that they're up, because you wanna look professional to the people coming out, that, okay,
Well,
it's,
then I'd say that goes to the city manager.
okay, but that can be part of your discussion at your
Yeah,
meeting too.
conversation.
You talk about you're
Yeah.
trying to build trust and openness, is, I think we should send it to the mayor, well, I think we should send it to the city manager, okay, well, why, okay? And
Well, we are gonna have to discuss it then at the January meeting, because
Right.
we've got,
You gotta figure it out.
We gotta figure this out.
But don't make it too complex for
No, no,
yourself.
no,
This is,
no.
this is
It's
this
gotta be
is-
simple.
low-hanging fruit.
This is simple,
So,
actually.
but you're talking about what was your first question? How do you build trust? You know, here you're saying, oh, I think you should mail it to everybody because I don't wanna be left out. Oh, but look what you just did though, look what you just did. Okay, yes, I get it. We
Yeah,
gotta
I
trust, we
do
gotta
get
start trusting
Yeah,
someone.
I understand.
So-
I think it's
that.
just where we're so used to not knowing what's going on.
Yes.
Right.
You know.
Isn't it
But
cool
I
that you can
promise
trust
you
now?
all,
Yes,
we're not hiding anything
Oh,
from anybody.
I know.
And
Oh, I know
I've
you.
talked a lot about honesty, integrity, and people know me a long time. I'll be as open and honest as I possibly can be. So I know we're all learning each other. We're part of our forming phase right now. We're all learning each other.
It's kinda cool.
This is
It's
really the
really
first
is.
time we've ever sat down and talked
Yeah.
like this.
Because what I was saying, Michelle, is back in the day,
Yes.
we didn't know.
Yes.
We didn't do.
And we've,
Means a spectacle.
I think this board is fantastic right now.
I think so.
Because everybody's open-minded, they're willing, and they have all the right reasons to be here.
Yes.
And I'm happy to be a part of that. I think it's gonna be amazing going forward. So, yeah, I ask you all, parts that I'm involved in, please trust me on it, because I'm not here to,
I wouldn't be
To destroy
asking you to
anything.
stay if I didn't trust you.
Well, but that's, you're all gonna come to a point where maybe you didn't used to trust,
But we,
and you have to try now. Because you will never, and it's just not everyone else on the board,
as the people will see it.
it's yourself. And you have to, you know, if you're gonna take this journey together.
Ooh, here,
Yeah,
sold
but-
hands.
Yeah, no, but you actually have to make that you don't, I take that back, you don't have to. You can be the thorn if you choose. And that's your right, that's your right. And when you run for office, that is your right, you represent people. And there are communities where there's one agitator on the board, it's like, every meeting, there's something wrong. But that you don't get as much done, and it's not
We
as
wanna
fun.
grow.
You can disagree, but understand where everyone's coming from, and being able to open up and listen to them. And okay, that helps you not talk by each other, because sometimes that happens on boards. It's you talk by each other instead of listening to the other perspective and saying, is what you're really saying this? Because I could go that far. I couldn't go any further because I'm still skeptical. But you make progress.
I
You
can
keep
go
it
this
simple.
far, we're just gonna send this to you.
But that's how you get things done. Don't make it more complicated than it is. And if you start with trust, make somebody earn your distrust. It sounds kind of cynical, but if you come open-handed, that you're really gonna give somebody else a reason to trust you. And don't, it's like I used to tell my department directors, find people on your team that are doing stuff right. Catch them doing something right. Instead of catch them doing something wrong. Catch somebody doing something right and point it out in front of others. Because so many people think that your job as a supervisor is to catch somebody
No,
doing wrong.
it should be.
You've got to,
Pat 'em on the back.
so you guys can work under that same arrangement of catch each other doing something right and point it out to other people.
Yeah.
And those little things add up. So if you do that with your board and start, people watch you on TV, because I got a couple calls from people.
From people,
You're
people?
going up, you were up there, you told them to lower the temperature. Guess what? They weren't listening. So, word gets out. When we recruit for larger cities, looking for city managers or key personnel, police chief and whatnot, you don't think good candidates watch the videos?
I would
So
imagine
if
that
you
they do.
want to look like you're changed, or if you want to look like a successful board and community that's going in the right direction, number one thing is look like it, act like it. Because if I was going to a community, I watched their board meetings. I knew who the council members were that I was going to go interview with. I knew what they liked. I knew what they didn't like. You do your
Watch by
homework.
me, orange ice cream.
But when I got that call, I didn't watch. I don't know what happened at the last meeting or what. Maybe it was just a sparkler, not a firework. But they said, you know what? They didn't listen to you. You stole Florida temperature. They didn't listen to you. Well, it's challenging because you're all elected and you all want to make a difference and you all want to do something good for the community.
We can get so much better.
So be better.
Like what I said, Lori started giving out a weekly or a bi-weekly update. And that alone is gonna change things.
Well, and you know it can change things even more. Be involved with other people. Be involved in TML. Have your town manager be involved with the City Managers Association. Because your story needs to be told. And if you want people helping you, it's so pleasant to hear that the county is friendly and open to doing things. There are other cities you can do things with regionally as far as sharing knowledge, sharing technology. And there's so much out there, but you don't know it if you live on an island.
No.
So if you're involved in TML and send a council member, you can send a different council member every year to TML. It's
What
around
is TML?
Tennessee Municipal League.
Okay, well, thank
it-
you. I
but
didn't know the answer to
It's
that.
where you go with other elected officials and learn you're not so screwed up after all. Or you learn, geez, we're doing this right. Or I'm glad we have who we have working for us. Because you hear these stories and you network, but you also learn about the new laws that are coming. You
Yes.
also get, projects get demonstrated up. We did this project. And so you get ideas of what to do and what not to do. And
Learn
you get,
mistakes.
and you get a network of, all right, Bluff City sounds pretty cool. Bluff City you get a call, you can call somebody that's in your same boat in another size city, similar to you on the other side of the state, and say, have you ever guys thought about doing this? So it gives more value to your organization. And you'll be surprised how much, there are communities that send their whole board. I don't
To
recommend
be
doing
seen
it.
and heard, we
But-
don't
but-
have a budget wise.
Well,
Mayor Simmons.
but it is, and there's other things that you can do to spread that value. But you have to start here first. You don't have to, I say you have to. I would recommend that you start here at the board and learn how to trust each other, learn how to talk with each other, not at each
At
other.
each other.
And even if you disagree, know that that other person wants to do well. They might just want to do it different, or at a different time speed, or at whatever it is. Just know that. Okay, if you're going to trust everybody, and you're going to come up to your first battle real quick here in a month, because you probably have more than one person person that wants to sit up here and be part of your team.
Well, I hope we do.
Well, I hope
Yeah.
the next time that person who called me says, oh, I watched the meeting. They fixed the thermostat in that room. But because you're gonna vote on something, some of you are gonna vote for somebody that's not gonna make it. Oh, well, at least you know that you have people interested now.
Right.
And, you know, hey, all right, next planning commission position that opens up, we got 3 good candidates.
Oh,
Or-
well, our planning commission right now, we're shy on that. We need
But,
to.
okay, so
two,
now,
I think.
you've got people applying, hey, we gotta talk to you.
Well, right now, they've never applied. They've always just been appointed by the
Well,
mayor.
that's because of how it used to work.
Well,
Now you wanna be with the cool kids.
and you see, and it is critical that we get those done.
Well, that's how you build your bench. Once you get on a planning commission, you get to know laws, rules, you get to know how meetings run, you get to know some things about how to vote and what happens and processes, and then you may get people running for office from there. And I would highly recommend looking at how experienced you all are, that you need to build a younger bench.
I totally agree.
And so you need to get some people interested, and when I say youth, I talk about these people, I think I'm talking
30s,
about high school,
40s.
35 and under. You have to get them, they're the future, not because they're right,
Exactly.
but they were, once where you were. And somehow you got tricked into getting involved. I mean, you got, you get involved. So you have to find.
That was Michelle, she got tricked into
But
getting involved.
finding people in the 30, because you know what, they're gonna have family coming up, and they're gonna
have something new
when you
to
guys
us.
step down, you need somebody to come behind you.
Sure.
Exactly.
So start building that bench. You know, that's your
Totally
A-League,
agree.
that's your, so,
That's where
But-
they're at, because we actually got a lot of old farts on this board.
I did not say
Say what?
that.
Old farts.
I'm only 25 plus now.
Well, I'm 20.
Talk about me.
25
I'm
plus.
talking about me and you both.
But I would look, but then again, see, I would
But I
look at
agree.
this experience that you're gonna ask people who wanna be involved in the community, you get 3 or 4, and only 1 can sit on the seat. And I would tell all those people, hey, you know what? I really like what you said, I think we have a place for you, we want your help. Can you help us, can you sit on the planning commission? Can you,
Yeah.
these people that apply, don't just say, oh, sorry, you didn't get voted on. Take advantage.
Lord,
I don't
we
care if
need
it's on
your
the committee.
wisdom down
Yes,
here all the
yes.
time, like the 2 open seats, maybe if they will you, if they get turned down to be on the
Well,
board.
if they're the type of person you want on
And
the
if
board,
they
I'm not
want
just
them
saying
here,
just.
But if they want them here, then they
Yeah.
for certain probably would be willing to
Well,
do
but
the
you-
planning.
by opening
and zoning.
processes and letting people know what you want
Mhm.
and what your expectations are, because that's the other thing, is people don't tell what your expectation, what is your expectation of this person that's gonna sit the next person on the board? Because if you don't tell them what your expectation is, how do they
How
know?
do they know?
I mean, so, it's key is, what is we expect you to show up to meetings. We expect you, if there's packets and information, to read the packet before the meeting. We expect you to ask questions. Are you willing to do this stuff? Because it can be fun.
It's hard.
It's
But
fun.
there's, you
It's
have
fun,
no fun
it's
yourself.
fun,
It's hard.
but we have to apply ourselves, it's how much we put into it as
Well,
well.
and you set the tone.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
there,
I'm not
what is
anxious.
it, there's a thermostat and a thermometer.
It's kind of cool in here.
Yeah.
There is
But
one thing I
But
was
what do you
wondering.
want to be? Do you want to be the thermometer, or do you want to be the thermostat? Do you want to set the temperature, or are you just gonna reflect it? And, when you walk into a meeting, you bring your own weather.
It can't be hot in here all the time.
Well, if you're gonna bring a storm to every meeting, guess what? You're not gonna attract the people that you
No.
wanna attract.
And And
You're
I'm
not gonna
tired of the storm.
Well, if you're talking about tourism,
We do need to.
all right, who's gonna invest and build something that people are gonna wanna come see or do if they watch your meetings and they're saying, oh my gosh, it looks like one flew over the cuckoo's nest? You know, you're not gonna invest big money.
I think moving forward, I think we have a grip on that. I think there was just a boiling point, and we had very few people. I mean, we would have 2 regular people at
They
meetings.
said attended meetings, period.
And when people finally saw that they could be heard, they wanted to be heard. And I think that was just a unique situation, those 2 meetings. I commented at our last meeting. We had one person who came up and spoke, and he had a pep in his step. He was really happy, he wasn't angry. And he just made a comment. He said, hey, let's talk about a time change. It would be great. Thanks. And his tone had changed. So I believe that moving forward, our tone and our tenor will be more even keeled. I think there was just such a need for change, and people wanted to express, and the meetings weren't handled in the order they should have been, and I agree. You have to have order. Having said that, it was almost as if the town just had to be heard. And I think we're good.
Yeah, but where the town is now, though, it took people doing things, and you might not like how they got done.
Yeah,
That's okay.
it was necessary.
They put the effort in, and they did what they had to do. I don't care if it was the last council or 2 councils or 6 councils. Well, people put time into the community and tried to make it better. Now, you're coming together at a different time, in a different place, with different experiences, and you want to try something different.
It was very hard, though, for some of us board members. We really went through a lot, didn't we? We went through a lot, pain and hurt.
Let me ask you a question, and this is like Rose. Our workshop, and it's my understanding, we are required, it's an open meeting, it's my understanding that we must have minutes of meetings this meeting as well.
Yes.
Okay, but we don't.
We are
have
behind
not.
on our meetings, our minutes.
But we never do minutes of meetings for workshops. Never.
Now-
And we must.
Well, again, you have to follow, you have to post an agenda, and it can't be vague what you're talking about. We're gonna talk about, H2O. You've got to be specific on your agenda, what you're gonna talk about, and then your minutes have to reflect what you discussed. Doesn't have to be verbatim, but again, you have to say what time it starts. It's not rocket science, and then at your next meeting, you should, adopt those minutes as reflection of the meeting.
And please let it be known and set forth, it's like, if we have this meeting now, that come the next meeting by January, this workshop should be approved.
At that, yes.
At that meeting. We can't have these meetings lingering for months.
No, there's not, usually it's at the very next meeting.
Yeah,
If your
very next
workshop
meeting.
today, having minutes, I mean, I suppose,
Tomorrow.
since your manager isn't doing anything. you probably-
She just
Probably
probably
finished
finished
the
the
hunger.
I heard you.
No, Michelle, that's not true, because I know you used to type something.
How do we go about making sure that the mayor will never be able to act as city manager? Can we get that in? Because that is something that needs,
Another board
should
could
have been
undo
done
this.
20 years ago.
Another board could undo this.
Yes, you would,
But if we get it passed, then it'll be in the charter.
well, the most,
Because it will
the
fall back.
easiest way to do that is do good city manager.
We got one.
It is, well, you have an intern.
Yeah,
You have
but
a-
you know-
I intern
But-
rather, I'm
You
just,
keep saying
Well,
that.
well, I'm just saying
Yeah,
that.
We've not even
But
taken
now the
any.
charter
Well,
says,
What?
they're gonna clear it a little bit of it, but the charter says that without a city manager, the mayor takes over.
I know.
Also, the police chief, the CFO, and the attorney. So-
No, the judge.
No.
Or judge, I
It's
mean,
the judge.
yeah, I meant judge.
The-
So those four
Well,
positions,
it-
so that's the
it-
charter,
Way
They
too
work
much.
in the collision law.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, they.
No, they
no,
become, in other words, if the judge,
the
Laura says,
mayor-
I'm not gonna
I'm
be
sorry.
here, then she's the judge.
Yeah, that's.
Oh,
that's-
of
Or
course not.
Sharon
That's
will-
why it has to be changed.
Well, the charter changes,
We
that's
got-
the charter.
It has to be
But we
changed.
can do an ordinance.
I mean,
to
we
change
talked about
parts
this
of our
before.
charter.
Well-
Excuse me, Ms. Payne, but we talked about this before. I have fought this for 5 years, wanting to make sure that this, now we got an opportunity, and we got an opportunity to do it. We need to do it and not put it off. Whatever it
Oh, yes.
takes, making sure that we never fall back into that. I mean, Lori's doing a great
We
job,
need-
but
we
you
need-
in
we
agreement,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I don't
cannot
think
be
a mayor
yeah,
can be a
because it-
judge, like our charter does
Yeah.
say that.
Well,
I
it
know
just
it
makes,
does.
I mean,
somebody's got to.
While
fill
we
the
got a
position.
chance to do that, that needs to be done.
Well, let me clear up a little confusion.
Yeah, please do.
You have to be a practicing attorney to be a judge. The laws changed and all of that was taken out.
You can't be a judge.
Oh, say, hallelujah.
I guess you have to do it.
Well, there are changes in state laws that happen that affect your charter, even though you're
Private.
You're a
You're
private.
private.
So a lot of times, we try to do it the hard way. We try to make all these, I want change, because we're not at the other, we have to change your charter. First steps.
Baby
Yeah,
step.
you have to walk before you run.
Yeah, baby
So-
I just
so-
don't wanna
but-
fall back into
but-
that.
But right now, you've taken the step and you hired an interim city manager, town manager, and we already have a workup of a job description that we can pull up at another meeting, work on, change it, tweak it, do it, and decide how you want to move forward with hiring a full-time town manager, what that looks like, what that feels like, but that's your best way for success is to be successful. And you have a working charter. Your charter is fine. There are things in it, that you'd like to tweak. Okay.
Definitely.
One day we'll tweak some of those things. Some of the things that you want to work on, changing the meeting times. Well, I would look at, why not just look at all your rules and how you want to run your meetings, so everyone is on the same page. It's not a guessing game, and it doesn't change when the mayor changes their mood, that we're gonna do this and that. But,
take us
so,
down the road.
so then you pass an ordinance that says, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
So it can be one ordinance that addresses the time, the order of procedure.
Well, we already have one, but we can amend that to reflect,
Right.
what we want to do.
Right, so we had, of course.
But then
ordinance
just do,
for the-
I would recommend that you do it all at once and not 6 changes to everything. Sit down and discuss it, say, we're gonna amend, we're gonna amend this and we're gonna do it at a meeting, and this is what we wanna do, this is, the rules were set. It's gonna, instead of starting at 6, it's gonna start at 7. At public hearing, you can address those in there. You can do all that stuff, and you can do it openly in a discussion and get reasons why. One alderman wants it this way, and then why? Why do you want it that way? Why? Oh, well, I didn't think of that. That's where you get those discussions. So you don't need to, I guess my point is you don't need to change the charter to do the good things that you want to do. Down the road, you might want to change. Charter changes are always challenging, and I understand it. Yeah, you feel you don't want to go backward,
Oh, no.
but you don't know what's coming down the road in 10 years, and you want to be set for it, because things happen a lot quicker now than they used to.
Yes.
So getting good people in the right place. Jim Collins used to say, you need the right people on the bus. You also need the right butt in the right seat.
You gotta have a good bus driver too.
Yeah. So I think take your successes. You're having baby steps. Don't try to be in the Super Bowl yet. Just take your from the tone of your voices and what you've discussed. I think it'd be a fun board to be in. So You're gonna have some bumps in the road. Like I say, you're gonna have your first fight coming up. It's gonna be pretty cool.
But we will not leave mad, okay?
No. It's who's gonna be the next person to join our team. You know, it's like a game show almost, but it's a little more serious, but.
How many votes for this one?
But I do have a serious question about Michelle, because you've been here since what, October, September? And, I mean, couldn't we get something, in mind that she would get paid or give her a Christmas bonus?
I think you should have an agreement. We're paying her so much an hour, I mean, and then it's back retro to when she started.
Definitely.
and-
But you gotta hang on there now, because it was asked and stated at that meeting, Michelle said that she was not
But
taking
she
pay.
said it, but it's not right. She said it,
I believe she said she wasn't in it for the money,
She-
that wasn't her reasoning.
but
I think that's what
still.
I heard at the meeting,
Yes.
is I'm not in it for the money, I wanna help.
But at the,
That's what I heard.
but at the same time, can't the board give her something even though she don't want it?
No, I don't look at it that way, you're not giving. 'Cause
I mean, not
you're
giving,
not allowed
but
to
you
give
know, like
taxpayer away.
Establishing a
Like,
salary.
Well, I
A
think.
Christmas gift or a
No,
bonus?
I
But
think
we're
you
not
pay
ready
her.
to
You pay her for the
establish
job
it.
she's doing.
Well, could we
But
pay
we're
her?
not ready to establish a salary until we
But
go
she
through the job
deserves to be
description.
paid.
We have a job description that has been done, we can start from there.
Well, I think
Right.
with her position,
I'm gonna say-
I think you have like a interesting situation because
Mhm.
you basically hired her that night
Yeah.
to do a job, and there was no talk on compensation. You can say,
We can do it.
you can come up with how much an hour we want to pay her retroactive back to this date. And make sure that she's paid for the work that she's doing for the city. So that's not, you don't have to have a job description or anything for that, but you should come up with an agreement. I think probably your attorney can help you come up with just a short agreement that says, we agree to pay so much an hour. I don't know if any benefits or anything like that, or, I don't know any of the details, or how long you want it to last, or whatever. But
Well,
come
it's
up with
only
an
that-
agreement so I mean,
Yeah.
nobody likes to get pumped. Nobody likes to,
Right.
work, it's-
Surprise.
Yeah.
That would be so unfair.
But,
Yeah.
but you have to be realistic about what you're looking at, and there again, we're talking about expectations, and you have to set those expectations. We don't wanna take advantage of you. You kind of volunteered to do this, and you didn't ask for a salary or a wage. We gotta come up with a wage and
Yeah.
negotiate that wage, and you might tell the mayor or ask the mayor to work with the attorney to come up with something and bring it back to you. That's normally how it happens, is the mayor works with the attorney when you're negotiating with your.
But you're talking about somebody
Can we do that?
we're gonna be hiring though.
No, I'm just talking right
Oh,
now.
you're talking right now,
Right now,
just strictly
just
about the
Come up with
interim.
an hour
Yeah.
wage that we are comfortable with, because you've basically hired somebody.
Right.
But I don't think it should be a contract, because why, contract means you might have a time period on it.
Well, it's on
And
the
we
agenda
are
tomorrow night
setting-
to discuss.
Perfect.
That's good.
But I see how that works on the agenda, it's on the agenda, which means that board will vote about that
Okay,
tomorrow.
you have turned in your resume. We have a copy of that.
Yes. I don't have a copy.
Okay, you need to get one, it's very.
I have
Would be
a copy.
happy to furnish one.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And people forget, I'm new,
Oh.
like, I didn't realize, I was waiting for a packet to be delivered. I didn't
For
know,
This meeting,
no, for
For
the
tomorrow.
very first meeting.
We used to get packets.
The meeting that we had November the 6th,
yes.
I was waiting for a
We don't
packet.
get packets anymore.
No, I
We get
emailed everything, I emailed the
But I
package.
I wasn't on that email, but you sent that
Yes, because
email out.
that was prior to.
That was
But
prior
before.
to the
Yes.
elections, and see, I waited and waited for the packet. You know, and I had
I
nothing.
apologize.
The only thing I came to the meeting with was I printed out the agenda. Now
And so I just wanna clarify, so we did change that because it was taking a lot of time and resources away from not only the police department, but then also resources like folders and envelopes and, things like that. And if
Well,
anything changed on the agenda,
I
just
just
wanna
love technology, and that should,
but I just want,
It's
so I
fine.
just want you to know what happened though. So what we decided was, yes, we would save on all the time and resources, which essentially saves the town money too, by just emailing the agendas out. But I do want to clarify too that Ms. Green will make sure that there are paper copies available for all board members on the day of. So you won't be required to print out your own. She will have ones available for you here.
Okay, great.
Yeah. That way
Okay.
we can save on some of the paper too.
I think
How
when
about
we
the
did
audit?
that, we did that 20 years ago in a town, small town like this, we figured it saved over 10 grand a year back of that.
I don't doubt it.
Just do
I mean,
electronic.
well, just the police department
Yeah,
having
the
to
hours
deliver
of
the
delivering,
packets,
yeah.
you know?
I know they're important,
Wear
and
and
you need an
tear on
armed guard.
vehicles, it's a
Yeah.
lot when you add it all together.
Oh, absolutely, and I mean, this was fine, I'm just saying,
Time and staff.
I was totally unaware because
See, that's a bad way to
the
build
election
trust,
was,
right?
yeah, the election was November the 5th, we had a meeting, what, the seventh, no, I think it was the seventh.
Oh,
Seventh.
oh.
It was the
It was
seventh.
You need to cut some slack.
You were sworn in, I think, on the 6th.
Actually, I think I was sworn in the day of that we had the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
was
we
the day
worked
of.
really hard
So they
to
couldn't
make
be
sure
here
that
then.
you were cleared to be able to
Because
leave for
I
that
knew I
meeting.
had to be sworn in prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
And
So-
Sharon, this was a first for Sharon, she'd never sworn anybody in, I'd never been sworn in, so.
Yeah, and I hardly ever swear, so.
And we both swore up and down.
So, any other questions? I think you guys, I really want to encourage you because I think you're off to a really good start. Hit a little bump because I got a report of somebody who watches your meetings. Actually, 2 calls. But, so I can't wait till I hear about tomorrow night's meeting. But
Well,
I think if you look at it, as serious as it is, but take a breath and understand you're all good people and you want good things for the town. You may have different time frames, you may have different urgency, you may have different ways or different things you want done. But the other people aren't the enemy. The other people aren't. And so if we build and show trust, if you trust each other, it'll be evident. And the people will pick up on it. Your staff, as was mentioned by the chief, is already feeling. Wait till they see a full board in action, working together. Like I said, I bet 95% of the stuff, that's what it normally is, 95% of things that get passed are hardly any discussion, but we don't look at that stuff, we concentrate on the 5% that we might disagree on. So, can you imagine a company that's running at 95% all the time? We let the public sometimes mess with our minds, and we're supposed to argue and fight because we're government. It's not the way it is.
Discuss, I think we
Look,
should
the
discuss.
discussion is very healthy, but most of the time it's only about 5% of the stuff. So we have to learn to tell your story a little bit better of all the good stuff that's happening. You know, there's a lot of good stuff in every town that's happening that nobody focuses on because you focus on the 5% that you're discussing. So,
It's real, we got some grant money in our little town.
there's some
Well,
cool
Most
stuff.
of the citizens, and which I'm with them on this too, is concerned about our water bills. We've got to come up with something. Matter of fact, I got mine $134.
Well, that's
so
gonna be
we've
the
got to come up
toughest
with a
part.
grant. And, you know, we
That's gonna be
told
the
that
toughest part
it's gonna be,
of the city. That's gonna be the toughest part. of
well,
the
it
city.
didn't have to, we didn't have to have those increases, I know that.
Not this time.
But this is a new day.
There's a lot on the water stuff too. We're just at a really pivotal point right now as far as what we have to have in reserves, or we lose our water. And it goes to Nashville.
Well,
And then we're looking at something,
the people can't take enough.
no,
Then-
they
then
can't, so
this is-
we need to
this is-
really, as a
We
legal
have
board,
got to
we need to
come
look
up
at it.
with
2 years
Yeah.
straight, we've had increase.
and
We didn't
discuss what, discuss what our options, if we go forward and we're honest and discuss what our options are.
Yes.
But the day is going to come when that is going to retire.
And I think that conversation, Alan and Sharon need to be involved in something like
Yeah,
this,
or
where
when you're
it
told
can
that
be dug
it's gonna
into.
be in
Yes.
the red or whatever, black, whatever, and
We
then
need to have a full
you know
understanding
that you
of what that
wasn't gonna
is.
be, but nobody checked it out.
We're gonna do some, we're gonna do some good things.
But I would like to thank you, Mr. Alder. Thank you for your help, on the officer, guiding me and the board and all that. I just want to say thank you. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
That's what we're here for, so.
Took a lot of stress off of me.
Well, I tell you, you